So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Wonder Woman. So let's start the series. The light still has no faith in me. Wasn't it I who gave you the technology to create those clones of yours? Wasn't it I who gave you the means of self-reliant energy to keep those heroes from snooping around for so long? The individual replied quietly, things will be fine, as long as the light keeps their end of the deal. I can't have the League coming here yet anyway. We will deal with the League as promised, said another person in the shadows. And I will deliver the ultimate weapon once Project Pandora is complete, responded the man. We have taken the liberty of sending you extra protection while your little pet is busy, said the initial figure. That will just bring more attention to the fact that I am up to something. It is bad enough that those shinobi will be here at necessary risk, but if someone notices you people coming here, well, it is bound to draw unwanted attention, responded the brunette. A third man, sounding somewhat amused, asked, so what is your plan to get the League's team of sidekicks from discovering you? I have a second location in the middle of the ocean that will be giving off a large amount of power during the time of the experiment, Donovan explained. The voice was feminine. And what about the real location? It bound to draw attention, the voice continued. I am in the sub-level of Dotech France, where the Doa tournament is currently taking place, so high energy readings are a natural occurrence here, so we'll go unnoticed until it is too late, Donovan said. The first man stated, to make this look more convincing we shall send our soldiers to the second location, before saying, all hail the light. All hail the light, said the others. Donovan rotated his head to face the newcomer when he finished the transmission. The woman with white hair murmured, I didn't think you were one to follow orders, as she emerged from the darkness. I am using the light just as they are using me, but soon I will no longer have a need for them, and they along with the Justice League will be destroyed and anyone else who stands in my way, Donovan responded. Well, the preparations are almost complete. We should be ready to start within the hour, Chrissy stated. As he stood up and left the office, he remarked, tell me when everything is ready. As Donovan continued into the facility, he came to a halt in front of a huge door. There was a passcode required to enter, followed by a palm scanner and a retina reader. The door itself was constructed with two 10-inch thick strengthened alloy steel plates that would be difficult for Superman, even with his greatest strength, to get through. The space between the two sheets was lined with lead, exactly like the rest of the room, so Superman couldn't see what was within. And there would be about 1,000,000 volts of electricity waiting for anyone who managed to break through. His real collaborators, who taught him how to clone and use the box's energy, worked here. Once inside, the room was filled with these weird-looking humanoid-like creatures, each with yellow eyes and mossy green hair. One of them stood out from the others because it had no eyes or hair, only empty holes where they should have been, no mouth or nose, and skin as dark as night in place of the ghostly white. What is this? Frowned Donovan. One of the creatures remarked, it is nothing to worry about. But you could say it is armor of a sort. While frowning, Donovan questioned, what is this armor for? Once the power is released it will be unstable, and this will help keep it stable until the time it can do so on its own, the explanation went on, so don't worry, you will get what we promised. Just be sure you are ready when it is time. Donovan gave the creature a slight glare before approaching it to get a better look at the armor. It appeared to him to be nothing more than a shell, and he wished they had talked to him before making it. He left the lab room, shutting the door behind him, and on his way back to his office, he ran into Helena, the daughter of the man who founded the business, who, like him, was unaware of the breadth of his vision. She gestured to the door at the end of the hallway and asked, Donovan, what is in that room? He walked past her and replied, nothing you need to concern yourself with, to which she gave him a look. Christy and a somewhat tall woman were standing in his office as he walked in. Calmly, Donovan responded, Dr. Hamilton, I hope you are here to bring me some good news. Yes, everything is ready, so we are just waiting on the orders to get started, sir, Lisa replied. I will send Alpha 152 down and start the process, Donovan declared. Sir, I know that I have said this before, but allow me to say it one more time. I have a bad feeling about this. We know what is inside, or how it reacts will to being forced into an unknown situation, Lisa responded. That's your job, Donovan added icily. She answered, very well, and walked out of the room. It is time to execute Order Pandora, Donovan stated, pressing a button on his desk to release Alpha 152 from its chamber. Decades of hard work and research will finally pay off, and the world will be at my feet. His defenses were at their weakest right now, and all he had left were Christie and his handful of soldiers. He watched on one of the monitors as Alpha 152 made its way to the lab and began the ritual. Soon, it would be too late for anybody to stop it. He could only hope that if things went wrong, the people he had with him would be able to finish the task until help arrived. Maybe the Zaitsu would help, but he could bank on it. He watched on the monitor as Alpha 152 carried the box into the confinement area and began the procedure, which would take many hours to finish. His scientists would be closely monitoring the situation the entire time. Team assemble in the mission room, said a group of youthful heroes lounging on one of their few days off. They all knew it was Captain Atom. When they arrived, they all followed instructions and saw Captain Adam's face on the screen. We have picked up on a massive energy spike on an island to the southwest of Japan, and the League has been busy dealing with threats all around the world. They could be spending too much time with Batman, but I don't think this is a coincidence. We believe that whoever is behind this energy surge is also behind these attacks, and they want to keep the League out of the way, Captain Adams stated. Your mission is to find out who is behind this, what they are planning, and if necessary and possible stop them. Nightwing, you are to form your squad as you see fit to take care of this as quickly as possible. Superboy, Miss Martian, Batgirl, and Wonder Girl, you all are coming with me, the rest of you wait here until further ordered, Nightwing said as the screen went dark, and he turned to face the team, before leading them to the docking port. Donovan became increasingly nervous as time went on because he wasn't getting what he wanted upstairs, and wasn't sure how long the ceremony would take. He wasn't sure if those ninja had reached the point of being stopped or not, and Alpha 152 was the only person who could possibly stop them if they managed to get down here. Chrissy, go up there and slow them down and call for the reinforcements while you are at it, Donovan remarked with a smile. Chrissy said, would you like me to take the ones here as well? No, leave them down here, he replied, and she complied by leaving the office and ascending to the battleground above them. He called into observatory as soon as he heard the door close behind him. How much longer until the ritual is completed? Lisa responded, according to the calculation, it should only be another hour until we reach critical mass, and it will be too late to stop it, as she stood to watch Alpha 152 sit still, as it pumped its inner energy into the box, and the odd markings covering it flash an unsettling blue. The box is now producing its own energy much sooner than we predicted, a different scientist commented, looking at the monitor readings. Lisa frowned as she questioned, what does that mean? That means, it is too late to stop this. The box is now producing more energy that the box can expel safely in another form, so the energy within the box is building much faster than we first predicted, he said. Lisa inquired, so how much time before the box opens? I would say maybe 40 minutes at this rate, but it could be sooner depending on the rate of growth from the internal energy source. With new information coming to light, we have less time that we previously believed. In about 30 minutes the box will reach critical mass, and we have passed the point of no return. The box is now producing more energy than it can disperse, Lisa stated while calling Donovan. Well, that is welcome news. How much will the rate of growth be affected by removing Alpha 152 from the equation? It is hard to say, but best guess would be 15 to 30 minutes. Alpha 152, go deal with the intruders, and once you have finished return to the task at hand, Donovan said. After that, Alpha followed instructions, but something strange happened. The box's glow didn't go out, and the energy growth didn't even slow down. If anything, it increased a little. Whatever was in that box had to stay there, Lisa was certain now more than ever. As time went on, the box grew brighter until energy pulsed out of it in bursts. The lights on the computer monitors flickered as they began to malfunction. With every second that went on, the pulsing intensified until the electronics could no longer cope. They soon found themselves in complete darkness, with the box serving as their only source of light. Lisa attempted calling out to Donovan, but he didn't answer. Donovan, can you hear us? Donovan. When she heard the door open and Donovan and Alpha 152 enter, she jumped. Donovan calmly stated, calm down, acting in his Selena blew up the building above us, while keeping his gaze focused on the box in the room below them, which was the only source of light. He saw a fissure form on the box's outside. The scientist was intrigued because the fissures were rapidly expanding, and a golden light was leaking from them, and nothing they tried would even chip the box. Pieces of the box flew in all directions as there was a loud crash. When some of the chucks struck the bulletproof glass, it did little to prevent it from breaking instantly. The only one that didn't seek shelter was Alpha 152. Donovan stood up, brushed off his suit, and left the room, with Alpha trailing behind him. When he walked into the lab, the golden light shunned the sun's intensity, making it impossible to see the middle of the room. However, the emergency lights flashed weakly as the golden glow eventually disappeared. That black armor was standing there when he looked up, but it was different now. The eyes it possessed were unlike any he had ever seen. Spikes that were purple and rippled began to grow from its head, creating a crown, and more spikes appeared from its shoulders, back, and elbows. Donovan questioned, what is the meaning of this? One of the pale beings smirked and said, we told you that the one to control this power would shape the world. We never said that you would be the one to control the power. So you planned on control this power for yourself this entire time, Donovan replied, cutting the creature with his laser-like gaze. The monster clarified, no, the power acts of its own, and we are only subjects to its whim. As Donovan's soldiers charged in, their weapons aimed at the weird black creature, who now had a more demonic than human appearance. The air thickened, the soldiers' helmet visors broke under the strain, and the floor beneath them began to fracture, sending pieces of rock floating up around the thing. The bullets floated before the thing innocuously till they struck the ground at its feet, but one of the soldiers panicked and fired their gun until the clip was empty. The object stooped to pick up one bullet. He studied the metal thing that lay on his hand's palm. As the entity in front of them did this, nobody spoke or moved. He took a step back, but that was all he could do as the bullet tore through his skull and sliced Donovan's cheek, as its eyes moved up towards the man who had emptied his magazine. With Alpha by his side, Donovan carefully backed away while grabbing hold of his cheek to stem the flow. He clapped his hands together, and a wooden pillar sprang up into the air from the ground, catching and crushing the soldier. Blood poured down as the pillars tore through the building and into the flaming wreckage above them. The scientists couldn't believe how quickly he murdered all of Donovan's warriors with a simple clap. He was gone when they looked up. "We're all going to die," someone yelled as they tried to move as far away from the creature as they could, but it didn't move, and instead stood there staring up at the sky and the full moon. They all heard screaming and turned to see one of their own hitting the ground with his eyes wide and lifeless, staring out into space. As Lisa saw the whole affair, she couldn't help but notice a wicked beauty like a fallen angel, longing to glimpse the gates of heaven, once more as the moonlight shone down on him beyond the blood-covered flames. But what truly struck her were its eyes, which were now filled with anguish and grief rather than emotionlessness. Nightwing was certain that the false alarm was a diversion from something else, and his suspicions were validated when they received a message from Captain Adam, who said, "We need you and your team to head to France. We have been picking up abnormal reading coming from the DOTEC headquarters in Paris. We need you to go and check it out." The team was returning to Mount Justice after the false alarm, but even though there was nothing valuable there, it appeared that the light wanted them there. Nightwing questioned, "Isn't the DOA tournament happening?" With that, they hurried out to France. "Yes, so that means security will be heightened, but we have faith you will be able to infiltrate DOTEC and find out what is going," Captain Adam remarked. "Miss Martian, stay on the ship. Batgirl, stay with her and get me the layouts of the building and any other information you can get, and the rest of you are with me," Nightwing said, as the building was on fire as they arrived. A nearby building was struck by Nightwing, Superboy, and Wonder Girl. Two individuals were standing there as the building caught fire and fell on itself. "Nightwing," Batgirl remarked, "something is growing down there." Nightwing said, "Superboy, do you see anything?" "No, the heat from the fire is drowning out the heat signatures of anything who might be alive down there," he replied. "It looks like we will have no choice but to get a closer look," Nightwing remarked. "Team, move out," he said, and they all dove down. Superboy leaped, Wonder Girl flew down, and Nightwing used his devices to get down. Following the schematics Batgirl had supplied them, the three heroes dashed into the flaming death trap that had formerly been DOTEC headquarters. Superboy quickly became aware that they were being pursued. He said, "I know you are there, so show yourselves," and the two girls who had been on the roof emerged from the darkness. Nightwing remarked, "What are you doing here? It's dangerous. This is our problem, and we will be the ones who finish this," the purple-haired girl replied, her eyes fixated on Nightwing, and despite her diminutive size, she appeared quite menacing. Superboy yelled, "So you are the ones who blew up the building," with aggression. From Nightwing, she looked at Superboy. "No, we didn't. Helena did to stop Donovan and what DOTEC had become," the second girl replied without hesitation. "There are a lot of people down there, so you guys better hurry," Miss Martian advised telepathically. "We don't have time to argue, there are people still in this building, and we need to get them out," said Nightwing, "and after that you can fill us in on what is going on." The girl with the purple hair questioned, "And why would we do that?" "Because we might be able to help each other," stated Nightwing. Before they all hurried forward in an attempt to find a way down, she remarked, "Fine, we will play along for now." However, when they discovered the pillars and the hole in the floor, it was soon no longer necessary. "What is this?" the red-headed person said in horror, and the others turned to see what she was referring to. Stuck within the still-growing pillars were mutilated and crushed corpses inside the wood. The girl with purple hair looked at the redhead and nodded. "Alpha 152 couldn't have done this. That means there is something else down there," she murmured. She responded, her face hardening, "Whatever it is, we have to deal with it," and they both leaped to the ground, with the others following. They fell in a pool of blood, and as they peered around, they saw more bodies all over the ground. Superboy remarked, "There is someone still alive," and he hurried over to find a woman sitting at the base of one of the pillars, with her legs hugged tightly to her chest. She was covered in blood, but it didn't appear to be hers. Her eyes were wide with fright. Veridide questioned, "Lisa, what did this? What caused all of this?" "We did," she said, "but we shouldn't have let it go." Wondering what may have caused this, Nightwing questioned, "Freed, what?" Nothing like this had ever happened to him before. Not even the Joker had accomplished something like this. Then he saw that she began to gesture slowly towards something behind them. They all turned to see what appeared to be a monster with its eyes locked on them, smeared with the blood of the people it had slaughtered. Nightwing yelled, "Wait," as Superboy charged in first. For a moment, he believed that Superboy had heard him, but it soon became clear that he didn't stop of his own free will. He was blasted back, slamming into one of the pillars, and a spike tore through his shoulder, causing him to scream in pain. Ayan produced several kunai and hurled them at the beast, but they halted in midair. Kasumi, however, had advanced from a different direction, and he turned just in time to avoid being kicked. Ayan drew another kunai and charged into battle as she swiftly on Shutterblade. The creature was fighting the two kunoichi on equal terms, and it appeared that neither of them could get the upper hand after snatching two kunai out of the air before they touched the ground. Nightwing pointed to the doctor and said, "Wonder Girl, get Superboy and her out of here, I will help them," before he attacked and threw a batarang at its back. However, a third hand appeared from its back, seized it, and crushed it. After leaping away from its three assailants and glancing between them, it assumed a combat stance and gestured for them to come closer. The three launched an attack, but they were unable to touch it. Its speed was incredible, and its moves were perfect almost, as if it could read their every move and counterattack. It staggered a little as Kasumi dodged a kick from Nightwing and Ayan, and then Ayan and Nightwing launched another attack, kicking it in the chest once again, causing it to stagger back. Purple flames began to form around Ayan as she made a hand sign, and a ball of energy began to form in Kasumi's hands. Its head was tilted as it stared, but it did nothing to avoid or even resist. The Raging Mountain God's Art. Torn Sky Blast. The two attacks hurled at the creature, who raised one finger and flicked it, causing a little ball of energy to form above it, and a heavy screaming sound to fill the air. In addition to countering the approaching spirit art, his enlarged strike also knocked his three opponents off their feet. He was the only one still alive when the smoke cleared. The other three were only slightly injured, but enough to be aware of it in the morning. The voice stated, "They are powerful. We should kill them now," and they all became terrified since they had never realized that there was nothing they could do if the creature decided to murder them. However, they would at least fight to the end. As they stood up, they had an odd tugging feeling, and everything began to distort. "Where did you send them?" he asked as the three he had been fighting disappeared in a whirlwind. "Back to their comrades," the voice said coolly in response. "Why did you do that?" "They gave me hope for humanity," the guy said, his face free of the shell of Seiitsu, his blonde hair flowing wild on top of his head, his eyes blue instead of purple, and his cheekbones marked with three whiskers. This comment left the Seiitsu unsure on how to interpret it. The team returned to the Hall of Justice in the morning, accompanied by 4 ninja. "Miss Martian, get Superboy out to the medical bay, but be careful. Wonder Girl helped the doctor out," Nightwing said, directing a few Justice League leaders who were waiting for them. "We can take you to the medical bay if you want to get patched up," he said, turning to face the two Kunoichi. "We are fine, but thank you for your concern," Kasumi said politely in response. That man calmly asked, "What happened to Superboy?" as the half-Kryptonian was escorted past him. Nightwing muttered, "We will explain everything inside," and the Dark Knight nodded. The two male shinobi halted in front of the Dark Knight. "We have heard much about you, Batman, the world's greatest detective. Some even say you may be the most dangerous man alive," remarked Ryu. "Hate, the 18th master of the Mugen Tenshin," he said as he gazed over Hate Ryu. Ryu Hayabusa, the ultimate ninja or the Dragon Ninja, married a CIA operative Irene Liu. Then there's Anne, they call you the female Tengu, and the current leader of the Hajinmon sect. Then Kasumi, you would have been the 19th master of the Mugen Tenshin if you hadn't become a Nukenin. "Wow, I am impressed," Anne remarked as she turned to face Ryu. Calmly, Hate remarked, "He is the best detective in the world for nothing." Superman said, "Now that the introductions are over, why don't we go inside?" Ryu remarked, "Yes, that is a good idea, we don't want to be overheard," as he followed the Man of Steel. Soon after, the others were doing the same. The lead Nightwing leaders, Batgirl, the 4 shinobi, and Lisa stood in the hall library to talk about the latest happenings. From what we have gathered in the last few hours, Dotek is working with the Light or at least Cadmus to develop cloning technology, and by the looks of things self-reliant energy sources, Batman quietly stated. Dotek and Cadmus attempted to replicate the box's effect, Lisa clarified. "The box," said Superman again. "Yes, you would know it as Pandora's box or even the Cradle of Life," said Lisa Hamilton. At some point famed Douglas came across the box and used it to power Dotek, but some time later Victor Donovan got the idea of opening it and releasing the full power of the box. We didn't know where he learned the secret of opening it, but it seems someone or something knew how to, and we believe whatever it was knew what was in the box as well." Wonder Woman frowned and asked, "Didn't Pandora's box contain all the evil in the world?" "Legend says that, but it is also the Cradle of Life, so that would mean life there is inherently," Lisa clarified. Superman questioned, "So what was in the box if it wasn't evil?" "Ultimate power. Or some might refer to it as God," stated Lisa. Nightwing inquired, "So that thing we fought was God?" "You have to remember it was just freed from its prison, and its powers were stable yet," added Lisa. Anne questioned, "So that thing is going to get stronger?" "I don't know if it will get stronger or just more control of its power, it could be both, and the amount of time it will take for that to happen is unknown, it could be a few hours or a few days," Lisa said. "Besides, the thing you fought was what was in the box, it was a shell containing the power, what came out was a bright golden light. Now that I think about it, after we freed it, these strange human-like creatures appeared with that black armor. They must have been the ones who told Donovan how to open it." Nightwing remarked, "But if it was locked away, that means we can stop it." "No, if it was locked away, that means they couldn't stop it, just slow it down," Ryu said. Your clone was never the ultimate weapon, it was the key to obtaining it, Lisa remarked as she looked at Kasumi. They tried using Raidu and Genra, even you hate, but you didn't have the power required to do it. Ryu glanced at her and remarked, that might indicate Kasumi is the key to stopping this thing. It seems a partnership is in order, Ryu commented, but none of us can stay away from our village too long. None of us but Kasumi. A temporary membership to the team could work, that would make the most sense, Batman stated. Ryu said, so will you agree to it? Captain Adam stated, since it is Nightwing's team, it is up to him. We always could use the help, Nightwing said. It had been about a month since the Dotech incident, and Kasumi was settling into her new environment while watching TV with Nightwing and Miss Martian. Hello my faith viewers, we have the honor of having Professor Karl Marx here with us today, G said. Gordon Godfrey, who was seated behind a desk, pointed to a man who was seated in an armchair next to his desk. The older man in the chair had steel-gray eyes with tiny wire-framed spectacles, and dark brown hair with gray streaks. He was dressed in a gray suit, black tie, and white shirt. Saying, thank you for having me Mr. Godfrey, Marx extended his hand and shook them. It is my pleasure, but please call me Gordon, he added while clasping his hands. You are very famous because your expertise is in politics and economics, but you are also a great historian. Yes, I feel you have to know where you are coming from to know where we are going, learn from the trends of the past. So you could say my love of history got me to this point, he replied. I loved reading about ancient civilization, their religion, their mythologies, the rise of their civilization and the inevitable fall. Many people have called for you to run for office, but at this point it seems you are happy in consulting role. Why is that? I am happy teaching the youth, and running for office would just get in the way of that, he remarked with a grin. But now for the real reason for calling you here, your new books. It is not uncommon for you to have highly anticipated books, but these are different to say the less. It is true that they are different, but I think the lessons in these books are important just like in all my books. There are 3 books, 3 different perspectives, all with the same goal, but different ideas of how to get there. Just like history, people have had the same dream but use different means to reach the ends, but I wanted to have something I thought everyone could enjoy. I got a chance to read some of one of the books, and I must say it was interesting, and I look forward to reading them, but why release all 3 at the same time? I always waited for the next book to come out, so if all 3 come out at the same time, you don't have to wait to read them. When Gordon said, thank you for your time, Marx remarked, it was my pleasure. Nightwing flipped the station and asked, next, the Justice League, are they good for us? Just as the channel was switched, Batgirl stated, he will be in Metropolis in a few days during the launch of his book signing copies. Do you think he could know anything more about Pandora? Kasumi responded, he is famous mythologist. Marx was seated behind a desk that night, leaning over some paper. I take it you have thought over our offer, Marx remarked, glancing up to find a man wearing a brown leather jacket over gray body armor, black combat boots, and black cargo pants. He was wearing a red mask. In the masked man's words, obviously otherwise I wouldn't be here, would I? So when do I get to meet him? Not so fast, there is something you have to do first, to prove you can be trusted, Marx replied calmly. With a somewhat irritated tone, the man remarked, you never said anything about a test. It shouldn't be difficult for a man of your skill set, Marx responded. If this guy is as powerful as you claim he is, then why doesn't he get it himself? He looked back down at his papers and remarked, if he just wanted the job done, he would do it himself, but if you don't feel up to the challenge, then you can show yourself to the door. What is it that you need done? There's a scroll. I want you to retrieve it. You will find a village in a forest at the base of Mount Fuji. The Shrine Maiden has been entrusted with its safekeeping, Mark said. I will supply you with whatever you require, and once you finish you know how to contact me. It seems I have more guests arriving soon, he said, looking at his watch, without looking up during his entire speech. If you slip out the front they won't see you. You hero-types are all the same, never had of a novel invention known as the front door. He returned to his work after catching a glimpse of the Red Hood disappearing around the corner. However, a few minutes later, he felt his study window open and said, please close the window, it is supposed to rain, and I have some very old and delicate pieces here, and I can have them being ruined. He put his pencil down and took off his spectacles, placing them on his desk and staring at a young man in red. Professor Marx, we have a few questions for you, he said. 2 red-headed people stood next to him, but one of them had green skin and considerably shorter hair. He inquired, how can I be of service? We were wondering what you could tell us about Pandora's box, Robin said. He pointed to the bookshelf and said, there is a case on that top shelf. Would you bring it here? Following instructions, Robin put the case on the desk. A chessboard was inside when Marx opened it. As he put up pieces, Marx inquired, do you play? Yes, but what does this have to do with anything? Robin responded. If you beat me I will answer your questions to the best of my abilities. He timed out, it is your move. There are many ways to play this game. One is to follow in someone else's footsteps and hope for a favorable outcome. Those who play to win, those who play not to lose, and then finally they play a game they can't lose, Marx remarked as he sat there for a while studying both the board and Robin. Miss Martian put the question, what is the difference? It is very simple. Those who hope for victory will rarely achieve it. Then there are those who will do anything to win, and with them failure isn't an option. Then there are those who play not to lose. There are the mints that if they can't win no one will. And finally there are those who play a game they can't lose, said, making a further move, and unlike the others they are not concerned with the outcome, they find the value in the journey to the end. It looks like I am in checkmate. You are someone who must win, and it will cost you if you can't realize there are sometimes victory isn't worth it. Robin inquired, how old is the box? His response was, older than life on this planet. So it is alien then, said Miss Martian. Not necessarily, but it is possible the box itself is source of life on Earth. The box was designed to release a small amount of power to keep the breaking under the pressure. The resulting effect was life. What interested Donovan was seeing the effect of a small amount of the power could create life. He wondered what all it could do, and the conclusion was rather simple. What? Inquired Miss Martian. Control it. A power beyond life and death, a power even beyond reality, he responded. You see, I had a chance to study the box before famed Douglas's death. The box is the answer to all life's question, or that is what I believe. The things that were set to arrive when the box was opened, what are they? Robin said as the professor stood up, moved to the bookshelf, and took out one of his notebooks. He opened it and thumbed through the pages until he found what he was looking for. They are known as Aetsu, proof of his power born of a tree that grew in the darkness that sprouted from the box, he stated. He swung it around so the three heroes could see the photo. The humanoid known as Aetsu was entangled in the roots of a sickly white tree, called. There are very few knew about this. The tree lacked leaves. Kasumi inquired, what about that black one? Those ones are really rare. From what I can tell there is only ever one at a time. If that mean there is one that lives much longer lives than the other, or when a new one is born the other dies. But there could be an explanation that I am not considering as well. Is there anything more that you can tell us about the box? Nothing grounded in fact, but I do have a theory. What if Pandora didn't open the box, but designed it and trapped the power within the box? But there are still those who know the truth about the box, he continued, the Olympians. After saying, thank you for the help, Robin stood up, and the other two went with him. He contacted Mount Justice as they arrived at the ship. Nightwing said, what have you found out? Those things are known as Aetsu and they came from the box, and if we can talk to the Olympians we can find out how to stop this thing, Robin responded. With a very good comeback and we will plan out what we are going to do next, Nightwing answered. While standing by a young man with blonde hair in an unidentified area, the Black Aetsu said, I have read this book so many times. I have even read the other one a few times before. But the last one, I can't bring myself to read it. His blue eyes were focused on a book. The Black Aetsu remarked, you gave the Martian permission to publish these books. It is a book. It is meant to be read, he replied, setting the book down. I can sense negative emotion. The Black Aetsu serenely questioned, why are you telling me this? Calmly, I sense resentment with this Aetsu, hatred towards humanity, he answered. We have watched this world come to what it is from the shadows. They fight for nothing but greed, said the Aetsu. The question becomes, will you help me save it? If that is your will then I will give my life to see your dream a reality, replied Aetsu. But I can't speak for the others. I am different than the other in more than just color. We Black Aetsu come from passing down the will of the Guardian before his death. We Black Aetsu are the ones who brought Ninsport art back to this world, and we are the ones who gave the scrolls to the first of the clan heads. It was our hope that they would be able to maintain peace, while we Aetsu stayed in the shadows forgotten with the passage of time. Naruto gently remarked, but there is still something different about you, something more. Yes, we have infiltrated every level of human society. That included places like Cadmus and got hold of Kryptonian DNA. I have been infused with this DNA. It has been diluted greatly so I don't have the full abilities, but I also had none of the weakness, so I have increased physical abilities, said the Aetsu. Calmly, he stated, it is almost time. My powers are now fully restored. When do we start? The second Aetsu rose from the ground, and his eyes flew to the corner. The plan has already been set into motion, but I just need a few more pieces to fall into place. According to the Aetsu, I have brought what you have requested. Good. Now there's one more thing I need from you. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman were waiting for the squad as they returned to the base. I called them after we finished talking, Nightwing explained. We need to find a way to speak to the Olympians. It could be our best way to learn how to stop this thing, Robin stated. That is why we are here, Wonder Woman stated. Dealing with the Olympians is dangerous, so that will be a last resort if all else fails. The Dark Night began. We came to hear everything that you learned about the box. A man wearing a red mask was finalizing his plan outside a village tucked away in a forest at the base of Mount Fuji. I must be crazy to try to rob a village full of shinobi, he thought to himself. After pressing a button, he saw an explosion across the town. He saw the shinobi rush towards the commotion, so he sneaked inside and hurried into the shrine. He turned to see a rather tall young woman with long black hair and hazel eyes. What are you doing here? He asked, reaching for his knife as she prepared to attack. Subconsciously, she looked toward a scroll that was affixed to the wall, depicting the mouth of a golden dragon. There is a scroll you have that I need, so hand it over, and no one will get hurt, he added. So that is. Well, that makes things easier. She glared at him and replied, you will have to get through me. It won't be as simple as you think. His words were, okay then, as he charged in. She was surprised by his level of skill. He swiftly moved too close for her to use her naginata, and his dagger was more effective at this range. She was able to parry the blade when she saw it coming, but she was unaware that he was holding a smoke bomb, which detonated in her face, momentarily blinding her and making her lose her guard. She was knocked out as the Red Hood turned around and hit her in the back of the neck. He thought about simply killing her, but ultimately chose not to. Before he had to continue fighting, he approached the golden dragon, took out the scroll, put it in his jacket, and quickly fled. When Haid returned to his town an hour later, it was in ruins. What happened? He asked a passing shinobi. We were attacked, there was an explosion to the south, and when we went to investigate we tripped the trap, replied the individual. Trap? What kind of trap? Sleeping gas Hayabusa-sama, and while our forces were weakened it seems they slipped in from north. And they took the scroll. Momiji tried to fight, is the only one who saw them. At this point, Hayabusa hurried into action to check on his disciple. She was sitting there with a couple of the medics when he got there. Hayabusa inquired, are you hurt? It was just my pride, she replied. He said, who did this? I don't know, he wore a red mask and was highly skilled, someone trained him well, she replied. Red mask? He said, wondering whether the League had any clues as to who was responsible. What were they after? He asked himself. Momiji's eyes widened in horror as he pointed to the wall where the scroll had been. He had to tell the League about this because if the person who took it had the ability to utilize the scroll, things could go really nasty. The first shinobi, a man simply called the Sage, was supposed to possess unrivaled strength. He gave the Black Spiders one of his 3 scrolls, the Mugen Tenshin the other, and the Black Spiders the third. Because he thought the secrets were too great for any man to handle, the second master of the village declared attempting to read the scroll a penal offense. Since this shrine was built 2 centuries ago, it had remained in place. Since no one else would have known where it was or how to enter and exit with just one person witnessing them, he had a weird suspicion that someone from the inside was involved. Batman, this is Ryu Hayabusa, he murmured as calmly as he could as he turned and left the shrine, pulling out the communicator. Batman questioned, is there something wrong? Someone broke into my village and stole a scroll, that is something no ordinary man could do, Ryu replied. What can you tell me about the thief? They were skilled enough to best my student, and they wore a red mask, Ryu said. Very well, I will search the database to see if I can find anyone who might fit the description, Batman replied. Ryu remarked, that is all that I can ask for. When Karl Marx switched on the light in his hotel room a few days after arriving in Metropolis for the book signings, he saw a man wearing a red mask sitting on the couch. So I take it you got it, he replied coolly. Red Hood took the scroll from his jacket and said, yeah, I got it. So when do I meet him? Jarl, this is the man that has your confidence, the Red Hood exclaimed as he stood up in front of a black demonic-looking creature with spikes protruding from its head and shoulder. His eyes were rippled in purple, and the spikes jutting from his skull resembled a crown. Red Hood questioned, what is going on and why did he call you Jarl? Marx transformed into his actual form, a white creature with long limbs and a hunchback. I am Jarl Moors, I am a white Martian, and he is the progenitor of all things, he declared. So there's a god and a Martian, sounds like the start of a bad joke, observed Red Hood. The Martian returned to his human form and reached for the scroll, saying, the reason you were selected was because you were trained by the Dark Knight, and with that have the necessary skill set. Red Hood pulled the scroll back and inquired, what is in this scroll? To which Marx said, that doesn't concern you. Red Hood remarked, so you don't know, and Marx scowled a little as he handed the scroll to the progenitor, who opened it. So what is it? Marx said. You have done well, Jason Todd, the progenitor murmured, examining the scroll before rolling it up and letting it disappear in a whirlpool. I have the moon plan. Or as you might know it as the anti-life equation. Marx asked, what of the third scroll? It will be much more difficult to get it. Know that Mugen Tenshin is aware that someone is after the scrolls, unsure if he would be able to obtain it himself. From what I have gathered, the scroll is no longer in the village. It was stolen by a trader of their village, and my forces haven't located it yet. But with that scroll missing, it was essential the second didn't go missing as well, the progenitor calmly stated. Marx questioned, aren't you worried someone might use it? No, he replied, disappearing into the whirlpool. Marx turned to address Red Hood, but he also disappeared. When his room phone began to ring, he grabbed it up and walked over to the TV to switch it on. The receptionist remarked, Mr. Marx, we have a Miss Lois Lane to see you. After saying, tell her I will be down in a moment, he stood up, turned off the television, and left his room. He made his way to the elevator and pushed the lobby button. He watched the numbers decrease till he arrived at his destination while leaning against the rear of the elevator. Dr. Marx, I am Lois Lane of the Daily Planet. I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions, replied Lois. He smiled warmly and pulled his spectacles up the bridge of his nose a little. I know you are Miss Lane and you're fried Mr. Olson. You are very infamous in the political arena, he began and added, but I find your work rather interesting. Lois answered, well, I'm happy to hear that. I have reservations for the West Bank River House an hour. How about we do the interview there? I will call and change the reservations for 4, he said. I had a meeting with Mr. Kent. With a faint frown, Lois questioned, as in Clark Kent. Yes, that would be the one, so would you be agreeable? She answered, that will be fine, and put her notepad away. I'll see you in an hour. So who wants to ask questions first? The 4 of them asked as they were seated at the restaurant an hour later. I will, she replied. I am sure that you are aware of the rumors going around about Dotek's cloning program. I have heard that, he replied quietly, but I can't speak to whether it is true or not. As Lois went on, but didn't you used to work for them, didn't you? It is true, there was a time that I was in the employment of Dotek, but that was a long time ago. I left before a year before the death of Mr. Fame Douglas, and I haven't been privy to what they have been up to since that point. What was your role with Dotek? I did research for that they were interested on the mythos of some of the ancient culture Fame, believed that a lot of it was based in reality, and he wanted to find out what was truth and what was fiction. Which ones in particular did he have you look into? Pandora's Box, Ark of the Covenant, the Cradle of Life and even the Fountain of Youth, but I am sorry that is all that I can tell you about the subject. It was written in a contract not to divulge the details about the study, Marks replied. But if you speak with Miss Selena Douglas and she give you permission to be filled in on the specifics of my work, I will be more than happy to tell you. I will do that, she replied, but now what about the rumors of Lex Luthor approaching you about helping him on his campaign for president? That is true, but he wanted me as his campaign manager, which isn't really uncommon. I have helped many people get into office over the years. But this time I had to decline his offer. What made you do that? I have much on my plate at the moment, so running someone's campaign is just out of the question. So it had nothing to do with his lack of ethics. Miss Lane, I am not perfect, so who am I to judge people too harshly? I am sure that you have done things you're less than proud of. Of course, but I don't throw my morals away because someone flashed money in front of me. Let's say that you have a groundbreaking story, but there is someone who doesn't want it published, and they tell you that if you do they will go after the Daily Planet until it does have a single penny. Sure, you could always get another job reporting or even start your own blog. Do you print the story? Of course I am not going to be bullied. Then maybe you need to look in the mirror at your own ethical standing before you judge others on their pride. Can he a very dangerous thing, Miss Lane? You would have all those people lose their jobs, their pensions, because you are too prideful to step down. Mr. Kent, I believe you had some questions for you. Yes. Why did you choose Metropolis for your book signing? The man who owns the bookstore I will be going to said that he would donate all profits from my new book sales to charity. So you won't be seeing any of the profits from the books sold at this location. I wouldn't be seeing any of the profits from this book. It is all going to charity. I make more than enough off my other books. In my stay with Dotek, I also teach at Gotham University and guest companies and other universities. I have more than enough money. What made you decided to give away the profits to this book? I feel it is the responsibility of us who can help to do so. Are there plans for another book anytime soon? Who knows, maybe after I finish with this personal project I am working on I will publish my findings. But if you are talking about anything similar to the 3 due to be released tomorrow, then the answer would be no. Well, could you tell me more about this personal project you are working on? I am sorry I can't, but I can promise you it will change the course of human history, he replied. Now that we have business out of the way, let's eat. Jimmy raised his camera and said, Professor, may I take a picture for the Daily Planet? By all means, was his response. They said goodbye to one another after supper, and when Marx returned to his hotel, he was met by an unwelcome sight. With a copy of Marx's works, Kasumi was seated in a cafe next to the bookstore. When she heard someone laughing, she turned to find a blond man about her age. He was quite attractive, and her eyes seemed to be drawn to his vivid blue. Following a brilliant smile, he said, The first 2 books are very good. I haven't been able to finish the third. His cheeks were marked with whiskers. You already finished them? She inquired, her voice bewildered. I got a chance to read them, before they were released. But as I said, I didn't finish the third, stated the gentleman. She tried to seem calm as she inquired, Would you care to join me? Sure, he replied as he took a seat at the table. Why haven't you been able to finish the third book? He looked down at the volumes and remarked, I wanted to have a happy ending, but I can't bring myself to read the last chapter. How do you know that it won't have a happy ending if you don't read it? Show me a hero and I will tell you a tragedy, he replied. So you think that all heroes' lives will end in tragedy? When you finish the books, let me know if it has a happy ending, he replied with a smile. How will I tell you if it has a happy ending? I don't know who you are or how to get in contact with you, she asked, closely observing him. Before getting up, he took out a business card and put it on the table. Call me Nine Demon, and if you want to find me I will be here, he said. Can I ask what your name is? Kasumi, she uttered. She blushed slightly as he walked away, then glanced down at the card he had handed her. "Well, Kasumi-chan, I look forward to hearing from you," he said, flashing her a foxy smile. Happy Harbor was the address. In addition to his name, the card had his phone number and address. However, at the top was the name of what she thought was Akakitsun Dojo, a business. When she turned the card over, she saw a fox with 9 tails, with an element on each tail, followed by yin, yang, and yin-yang. On the last tail, there was an odd symbol with spirals broken apart in various places. However, she had previously seen that sign, but was unable to identify it. She glanced up and in the direction 9 Demon had gone, but he was nowhere to be found. She left the cash for her drink on the table and got up. "Are you sure it is wise to get so close to her?" Marx inquired, unaware that she was being watched from the shadows. Bordeaux remarked casually, "Shouldn't you be signing books?" "I am taking a break," he said quietly. "So what reason do you have for getting that close to her? According to the information that I have found, she could be the one who stops you." As she disappeared from view, he remarked, "She is strong, but I promise you she isn't strong enough to defeat me without help." Marx questioned, "Are you planning to make sure that she doesn't get the help she needs?" Bordeaux simply grinned without responding. Marx wished he could see Bordeaux's thoughts, but his Martian abilities prevented him from doing so. "Where's everyone else?" asked Kasumi as she returned to Mount Justice Nightwing, where Connor and Megan were in the mission room talking to someone on the monitor. Captain Adam, if she recalled properly. Mel replied, "They're off doing their own thing," as he entered the room. "Did you get the books?" called Nightwing. As Anne entered the room after Mel, Kasumi looked between them and said, "Yeah. Did I miss something?" "The League has captured Azaitsu, and it told League where the progenitor will be tonight," Nightwing stated. "Kate-sama and Ryu-sama are with the League as well," Anne replied. "I am here just in case." Kasumi remarked, "They fail," as she turned to face the blank screen. As the sun set, Naruto emerged, standing on the water while wearing the black Zaitsu. He clasped his hands together, and in front of him, earth surged up from the ocean floor, pushing huge waves in all directions. However, as they approached Naruto, they stooped. Trees began to grow from the ground as soon as the land was completely separated from the ocean, quickly reaching enormous proportions. He saw a sizable crowd swiftly approaching and stepped onto the island. He sat down on a rock and remained motionless as he awaited their arrival. While he awaited their arrival, he extracted natural energy. His eyes opened as soon as they did, but he remained still and sat there for a moment before Zaitsu said, "So you came. What do you think of my island?" Using his most menacing tone, Superman questioned, "Are you going to surrender peacefully?" Zaitsu continued, sounding somewhat amused, "Why would I do that? I have you exactly where I want you, so it will give you an opportunity to bow down before me." With his arrow ready to shoot, Green Arrow asked, "How do you figure?" "Attack me and find out," the peaceful Zaitsu remarked. "Are you sure you know what you are doing? They are not to be taken lightly." "Are you skeptical of me?" Naruto responded with a tone of amusement. The arrow was released by Green Arrow. It disappeared just inches from him. "What do you think?" Superman said as Batman watched the demonic-like creature in front of them attempt to decipher his powers. Batman had a hunch, but that was all it was at the time. Batman said, "I have a theory, but I can't be sure yet," while maintaining eye contact with the creature in front of them. Superman said, "Anything I can do to help?" "Yes, but it will be dangerous if I am correct," he remarked coolly. "What is it you need?" "Try to punch him." "That doesn't turn too dangerous," Superman smirked and stated. Batman retorted, "Like I said, it is. If I am correct it will be." Superman rushed their adversary. Superman closed up on him as he stood there. Wonder Woman saw a hand on her back as the Man of Steel's fist was just inches from her face, but before she could get to it, she found herself standing in front of Clark, and she was struck rather than the person he had intended to hit. As the others searched for the progenitor, Wonder Woman was hurled crashing into the lake. And where Wonder Woman had gone, he stood. Batman was now certain of his theory, but it wouldn't be any simpler now that he knew what his skill set included, since he was still unaware of the extent of his abilities. However, a little later, he hit Superman, sending him hurtling back to where the other heroes were. After Wonder Woman emerged from the water and started to approach the progenitor, he ducked her blow and hit her in the stomach, causing blood to flow from her mouth. He then caught her by the hair and flung her to the other hero's feet. Superman replied, "I hope you figured out what you wanted to, because that hurt," as he stood up. "Yes, it seems he uses some sort of temporal displacement, allowing him to move himself and object through space and time," Batman replied quietly. Zatanna sarcastically remarked, "Well, if that's all, he shouldn't be that hard to take down." "So how does he do it? Some kind of magic or technology?" inquired Hal. "I don't know," responded Batman. Their enemy began to be surrounded by golden energy that began to form into what appeared to be two men united at the rear. The progenitor made a different hand gesture, and each of the energy forms made a different one. Superman collapsed to his knees, feeling as though all of his strength was ebbing away. He looked up to saw a kryptonite meteorite approaching Earth, and they all realized at that very instant that they were doomed, along with the world. "That is going to kill us all," the Zaitsu stated. As his Susanoo waned, Naruto responded, "Don't worry, I don't intend to kill anyone or die this evening." "I power," he said, focusing on the meteorite, and it disappeared. "What did that accomplish?" the Zetsu inquired. Naruto replied, "There is something inside that I want," before turning back to face the heroes and disappearing. Batman's scowl grew. When Naruto arrived at the Kumai realm, he stood in front of the meteorite, created an unfinished Susanoo, and used it to crack it open. The Susanoo kept chopping it up until he came to a ship in the middle of the meteor. When he opened it, he saw a girl with blonde hair who appeared to be about 16 years old. After depositing her beneath a piece of folk art, he picked up the nude girl and vanished, showing up in Marx's home and setting her on the bed. Naruto stepped out of the Zetsu and stated, "Keep an eye on her, and I will be back," before disappearing once more. "Hello Jarmors," Marx said as he sat in his hotel. He turned to see a young man with blonde hair leaning against the wall, his sparkling blue eyes staring at him. "You know I don't like being called by that name, especially since I don't know who might be listening," Marx replied. "Pack your things and check out, you are going back tonight. I will be waiting for you in the alley," Naruto remarked calmly. "Don't worry, I am emitting an electric pulse to disrupt electronics in the room," and then he disappeared. "Upstairs there's a young Kryptonian. I want you to do your thing," Naruto remarked when they returned to Marx's house 10 minutes later. Marx questioned, "What do you want this Kryptonian to know?" He added, "I will leave that up to you," as Naruto unleashed the Genspur painting and disappeared, accompanied by the Bakuzetsu. When Marx went upstairs and unlocked his room door, he was surprised to see a very perplexed-looking teenage girl seated on his bed. Krypton was destroyed more than 30 years ago, and he knew he was missing something. She began to float off the ground after jumping to her feet. He telepathically whispered, "Calm down, I'll help you," as she began to turn and flail in all directions, in an attempt to find her bearings. "Who are you and why are you in my mind?" she asked in a panic, still attempting to get her bearings. He calmed as he flew up next to her. "I'm Jarmors, but you can call me Karl Marx," he continued, offering to assist you. "I am." Marx responded, "Karl Zor-El, I apologize for the interruption, but I looked into your head because there were some things that didn't make sense." Karl exclaimed, "Like what?" "What this is in Kryptonese, with a start. I have planted the particular skills in your mind like the ability to communicate a history of the planet and things of that nature," Marx said. "As for the first question, you look to be about 16, but Krypton was destroyed over 30 years ago, or that is what we believe, but seeing how you haven't aged a day since entering that plot, it could be longer. The planet has another Kryptonian." Her eyes widened in amazement as she said, "Yes, I think you know him as Kal-El." Naruto stood in the center of his dojo, staring at the wall. The Nine Beast, which was on the back of his business cards, was in the center, and there were other shinobi clan symbols all around him. His gaze was drawn to the Hyuga clan symbol, and he felt his chest tighten as he tore his eyes away from it. His hand went to the ring around his neck. The Rinnegan stared at Naruto as the black Zetsu materialized behind him. "You know the plan," Naruto stated, and the Zetsu nodded before retreating into the shadows. "So 10 of the League members will be off-world for some time. That will make us that much more important," Marx remarked, glancing up at the red HUD that was resting against the wall, while he sat at his desk studying pictures that had been presented to him. Marx telepathically cried out to the Kryptonian, "Kara, please come to my study." Within minutes, she was entering the office and saying, "Kara, I know you wish to live a peaceful normal life, but a situation has arose, and we need your help to protect this planet." "What about the Justice League? Why do you need me?" she inquired. 10 of their members are off the planet at the moment. And there is a possibility that 6 of them might not return, your cousin among them. Kara remarked, "But I don't know how to be a hero." "Allow me to introduce you to someone before you make up your mind," Marx responded. She sounded uncertain as she answered, "Okay, I will meet him." "We're going to leave tomorrow morning," Marx replied with a pleasant smile. "Alright," she said, feeling as though she had a very small vocabulary, but she was at a loss for words. Marx and Kara stopped in front of a large traditional Japanese house the following morning on their way to Happy Harbor. The building was stunning, and she approached the front door. "Take your shoes off, it is rude to wear them inside," Marx said as he removed his own before going inside. Kara had never seen anything like it in person before, having only seen pictures of it online and in books. He led Kara inside behind him, and when they got to a dojo, he showed her a blonde who was motionless and an orange kitten that was sound asleep on top of his head, but as soon as she entered the dojo, the kitten's head sprung up and it meowed. Naruto said, "I know we have guests, but I was hoping that if I didn't move they wouldn't see me and go away," with his eyes still closed. Kara remarked, "You know we can hear you," as the kitten meowed once more. Calmly, "I know, but she can't be trained," he said. "What is the intended meaning of that?" Kara inquired. He opened his eyes, which were the brightest blue she had ever seen, and added, "I can see you don't want to be taught, so therefore I cannot teach you. You are right, you are too weak to save anyone. Now or then," he said. "What?" she questioned, taking a step back. "When you saw all the people you loved succumb to Brainiac's army. Brute force isn't enough against me," she said, attacking without knowing why. "It's good you ran, you are weak. All that power you have is wasted on you. She nearly struck him, but he sidestepped it, grasped her arm, and smashed her to the mat. You hate me, he continued, his gaze fixated on her, as she attempted to strike him with her free hand, but he grabbed it like it was nothing. You speak to me as though you know me and are aware of my experiences, she called out to him. But I do. The question is, will you keep living in the past or will you discover something worthwhile to fight for and develop your strength? I can show you everything I know, but it's up to you to decide whether to learn it, he added, letting her go. Knowing is insufficient. You must fight for a purpose greater than yourself, as fighting solely for your own sake will make you fear death, which will prevent you from moving forward. Mark said, let's go, and Kara remained silent the entire journey back, reflecting on the words the blonde lad had spoken to her. She also didn't sleep that night. Standing in Mark's office around 3 in the morning, she remarked, I want to go back, I want to train. I don't like feeling so weak. He answered, very well, pack your things, and stood up. You mean right now, she inquired. He responded, yes, there is no time like the present, as he passed her. It was 5 in the morning when they got there. Are you certain he's awake? Kara inquired, but he remained silent and simply led her to the dojo, where he was fighting someone only he could see moving quickly and fluidly. He paused and turned to face her. He said, let's begin, and she immediately felt regret for her decision. A few weeks later, while reading the third and last book, Kasumi dropped the book and picked up the card that Nine Demon had given her. At that moment, she recognized the symbol on the back of the card, picked up her phone, dialed his number, and waited in silence for someone to answer. Hello, a voice she recognized answered. Well, Nine Demons with trepidation, she asked. Yeah, he said. This is Kasumi. I was wondering if we could get together sometime. I have a few questions I would like to ask you. Why don't you come by the dojo tomorrow, he replied. Alright, she replied, I'll see you tomorrow. I look forward to it, she said as she hung up the phone. Nightwing was standing on the others when she heard a knock on the door, so she got up and answered. Is there anything I can do for you, Nightwing-san? Yes, I have been talking to the League about the mystery man who stole the scroll from the Hayabusa clan. We figured that if we knew what the scroll contained, we might be able to figure who stole it, stated Nightwing. Come in, she whispered, inhaling deeply, as the door shut behind him. The first thing you need to comprehend is the history of those scrolls. Scrolls, wait, Nightwing uttered those words. Indeed, there are 3 of them, one for each of the 3 main shinobi clans. The Mugen Tenshin, the Black Spider clan, and Hayabusa. According to legend, the first shinobi, a man known as the Rakuto Sannin or the Sage of the Six Paths, gave them to mankind. He was regarded as a man of unparalleled might, and our ancestors were instructed to use the scrolls only in dire circumstances. However, the Black Spiders one vanished long before they were destroyed, and Raidu took the one that belonged to my clan, she replied. If you possessed all 3 scrolls, what would happen? Well, legend says you will witness the power of the sage, but since I don't know what the scroll content is, I cannot say. Is this sage powerful enough to handle whatever Dotek releases, according to legend? She answered, I don't know, averting her gaze, but there is someone who does. Who is it? Why do you suppose I know someone who would be aware of that? She turned to Nightwing. That is what the phone call was about, isn't, she said. You had no right to listen to my conversation, she said, frowning. Go now, please. Nightwing followed instructions. The following morning, Kasumi hurriedly got dressed and packed books in a bag before leaving, without saying anything to anyone. She was shocked to find a large traditional Japanese house at the address on the card. As she walked to the front door, she saw an orange kitten and followed it to a dojo where a blonde girl was doing sets, and a Nine Demon was currently sleeping. She said, Nine Demon. With uncertainty. He said, hi, with his eyes still shut. I was wondering if you would be able to answer a few questions for me, he said. His words, that depends on the questions, caused her gaze to drop to the wall, which was covered in symbols she was unfamiliar with. Are you familiar with the Rakuto Sannin? With her gaze locked on the wall, she asked. He replied, I do, and she and the girl with the blonde hair both turned to face him. Which of the 3 shinobi clans are you from? No. You could say I am the descendant of the Sannin, he replied. Did the Sannin possess the ability to vanquish the progenitor? I can teach you to fight it, she said, scowling a little because it seemed like there had been more than one Sannin. You'll demonstrate to me how to overcome it, she questioned in awe. No. I will show you how to fight it. Whether you win is up to you, he said. Does that imply that you can resist it? Kasumi inquired. He didn't look at her as he said, no, because I am missing something. Something important. The key to defeating it. What is that? If I have to tell you, then you will never know what it is, Nine Demon replied. We will start training with sparing. Kara will be your partner. Raymond, this is too troublesome, so you will be in charge of their training, he stated with his eyes closed. Over the course of the following few days, Kasumi would go out to train with Nine Demon and Kara. Nine Demon didn't do much during the training, but one day when she arrived, Kara wasn't there, so she said, we're going to do something new today, and I'm going to teach you how to walk up walls, or more accurately, Raymond is going to teach you to. Where's Kara? Won't she also participate in this training? Kasumi inquired. He took a seat and waved his hand, saying, "No, she isn't suited for this type of training, but you are perfect for it. Besides, she wanted the day off to do whatever it is you kids like to do." With the phony white mustache and beard, he turned to face her. "You talk like you are an old man," she murmured, raising an eyebrow. "Don't I appear to be elderly?" he inquired, and she couldn't help but laugh. She shook her head to see where Raymond had disappeared to, and she came to a complete halt when she noticed the kitten meowing joyfully as it walked up the wall and to the ceiling. "What is he doing?" Kasumi inquired in disbelief. He leaned back and remarked, "By focusing core energy to the sole of his feet. Now get to it." "Is that all you have to say about me?" After a few hours of training, she returned to Mount Justice and was shocked to discover the Alpha Squad soldiers there. "No. Don't damage my walls," he muttered, and she looked over at him, who was asleep. "Have you seen this enigmatic savior?" Nightwing glanced between the four girls and inquired. Miss Martian responded, "No, they were already gone when we got outside." "Are you certain that someone else was present at all?" Mal inquired. "Yes, I looked into the mind of Mammoth after the explosion. He saw 2 lasers hit the forklift. It looked like Superman's heat vision," Megan clarified. Lagan glanced at Superboy and remarked, "So there is someone else who can see through solid objects and fire lasers from their eyes." "He was with Anne on another operation, so it couldn't have been him," Nightwing stated. "Where have you been, Kami?" "You haven't followed me?" she questioned icily. "Look, I am sorry, I shouldn't have been listening to your conversation, but we need to share information if we are going to stop the progenitor," stated Nightwing. Before leaving for her room, she bowed and said, "I apologize for my overreaction. I will let you know right away when I have learned something important." She took a shower and got into bed with the last book, and when he turned the page, she was thrilled for the endearing knucklehead. End of A Hero's Tale. She didn't want to read because she didn't want anything bad to happen to a character who had to overcome so much, but she did. Every day still seems too short for all the things I want to think about, the walks I want to take, to see all the friends I want to see, but we make do with what we have. At the end of the day, someone will always say, "I wish I had," but that isn't what life is all about. It's about the memories we create along the way and the times we spend with the people we love. I consider myself a fortunate man after everything that has happened to me. I was fortunate enough to have parents who loved me, friends who cared about me, and recognition that I had dreamed about my entire life. I have achieved all of this because of the people who believed in me, the proud failure. I was never the genius that prodigy senseis dreamed about, and I was not special in any way other than the fact that I was a proud failure. However, no matter how many times I failed, I never stayed down. A shinobi once told me that we discover our true selves when we face our own death. Going out like a hero must have been one hell of a person. My greatest challenge is looming closer and closer, but I must face it so that others won't have as many regrets in life. I still have regrets because I want to grow old with my love, watch my children grow, get married, and eventually have children of their own, but I will have to hope that they live knowing that I love them more than life itself, and that's why I can do this with my head held high. She read the entire thing, feeling as though he was speaking to her and her alone in his last movements before going out and facing something greater than himself, but he did so with honor, and she wished she had known what this great challenge was. She was surprised that there was no last great battle depicted, as there had been with the others, even though the first hero's death should have been his thoughts before the end of his life, but this one left you hanging, but it made death feel even more inevitable. It was rather ironic that they were all up against a force of nature more powerful than anything they had ever encountered, and she wondered if she would be able to stand and face it with her head held high, knowing that she liked the hero. Superboy was seated in the lounge when she came out. "Can't sleep?" she inquired. "No, you?" he inquired. "I finished the books," she began, and he only glanced at her. "I don't know how to describe it, but it feels like something is missing. Tomorrow we can go pay Dr. Marks a visit and ask him about it," Superboy replied. Kasumi remarked, "How about we go tonight?" He began, "Well, do you guys have any plans?" Megan asked as she entered the room and peered between them.